Well, hi guys, welcome back to the Appalachian Outfeed. Hope everybody's doing okay. Uh, so I am wrapping up the splitting of the wood for the season, and I'm reminded of what my very good friend JB said to me one time. He came up to me just kind of in random conversation and said, you know, the hardest thing about working on a project, and my first thought was, yeah, it's getting started on it. He's like, no. He said, the hardest thing about a project is that last like 5% of wrapping the thing up, you know, putting the finishing touches on it. And man, as soon as he said that, I'm like, you're exactly right. And so here we are. I've got this little bit of wood left to split. There's a little bit more on the ground over here. And this is just wrapping up from the I don't know, 2.5, maybe 3 cords of wood that I split this year. And I'm working on getting all this man glitter off the ground here so the grass can grow in the springtime. But I started working on this toward the latter end of November, and here we are, the latter end of February, and just wrapping this up. Now I've had most of it put up for a couple of weeks, but still, that's about 3 months worth of work. With that, I put an hour meter on this splitter when I first bought it, before I ever cranked it up. And I think right now I'm clocking 7.1 hours on this thing. So that's kind of incredible. It took me 3 months to run this splitter for 7 hours. But that being said, this is not an unboxing review. This is a 1 season's worth of use review. And so we're going to take a look at this now that I've got some time on it. And again, a little over 2 cords, I guess, through it, maybe up to 3. So we'll dive right into this thing. Got me some notes here so I can stay on track. So first of all, how did I end up picking this splitter? Well, I was really close to buying one from Northern Tool, because the specs on their splitters are better than all the other big box splitters. They got bigger hydraulic tanks, bigger and better engines, and just better specs. And I was really close to pulling the trigger on one of those. And then I realized, man, all they've really done is kind of fluff up honestly, I think a poor design, because all of their splitters were the horizontal vertical splitters that, you know, switch back and forth. They didn't have one pass-through splitter in the bunch. And to me, the horizontal, the splitters that mount the wedge on the ram and then push the wedge into a foot at the bottom of the ram, that's an inferior design, because that means, you know, most of them do not come with any kind of table, and certainly nothing that you can load very much on. I guess you could fabricate one or just put one together. But it's just, to me, an inferior design. I've worked on one of those for a season, and it was not great. You're constantly having to bend down and pick up wood. And yeah, if you got really big rounds, you can flip the thing up to vertical and work it, but now you're bending over and dealing with the wood, and it just does not, to me, seem to me to be the best setup. So I started looking around for a pass-through splitter like this one, where the ram has the foot or pusher mounted on it, and it's pushing into a wedge. And then as the wood pushes through the wedge, it lands on a tray, and all is right with the world. So I got to looking around on those, and I guess you would say one thing about it, all the commercial and pro grade splitters tend to be the pass-through type, not the other type. Well, the pro grade and commercial grade stuff, most of that stuff was starting around $6,000 and going way up from there. And that was not something that was even on the discussion board for me as far as spending that much money on the log splitter. So I got to looking around and came across Rugged Made, and it's pass-through design, and I got to looking at everything. I'm like, hey, I think that'll work. So that's how I ended up here. So it got me in the game as far as being able to use a pass-through splitter. So this one, I looked it up on the internet just before I came out here. This one right here, this is our 22-ton splitter with the Honda engine, and it's going for $3,850, $3,850 with shipping included. So with that being said, let's talk about what I did not like about my experience with this splitter. And it mainly has to do with kind of the website and the front end of the whole process. So long story short, when I went to purchase the splitter through the website, I could not get to the shipping part of it until I put in my credit card information, and I knew that the shipping needed to go to a shipping terminal where I could pick it up, and not to here, because these things are delivered on an 18-wheeler, and 18-wheeler was not going to be able to get here. And they were talking about, you know, parking the truck out on the road and then I got to get it from the, you know, the road up onto a trailer. It was just going to turn into a logistical nightmare. And when I got on the website, I couldn't figure out how to designate that this thing needed to go to a shipping terminal. So, okay, fine. So I ended up calling Rugged Made and saying, hey, I need to order this thing. I'm getting hung up on the shipping part of it. And frankly, the guy that worked with me on the phone was a little bit short with me about the whole thing. And just, you know, he didn't say anything out of the way, but just his attitude was not fantastic. Okay, dude, hey, I don't do this every day, and I'm just trying to get the stinking thing lined out, and don't want to mess up this $4,000 purchase. Sorry. So we got it done and got it shipped. I had to drive 2 hours up the road to a shipping terminal. That was a painless experience. Rolled in there, dude with a forklift grabbed it up, slid it in a trailer. It took a little bit of finagling to get in there, but we got it in the trailer, and 2 hours later I'm back here at the house. And that gets me to the second part of what wasn't so great about this splitter, and that was the assembly. So first of all, I'm fairly mechanical. I do a good bit of working with tools almost every day. So I'm not scared of assembling stuff. But the size and weight of some of these components, I just didn't know how that was going to go, just thinking about it and not having eyes on it and hands on it before the purchase. Once I got it here, I was able to do the whole assembly process by myself. I had to really take my time and do it, because a lot of this is not intuitive, and if you miss a part, you have to go back and fix it, and there's only one way this thing's going together correctly. Which that gets me to the second issue with the assembly process. I got not one piece of paper with this included with this splitter, not one. Everything as far as the assembly process was online on a video. There's a download process to get it straight from the company, but you got to download another third-party app to do that. And I just ended up going on YouTube. Well, two things. First of all, video's great, and I applaud Rugged Made for putting the videos out. But sometimes a picture is what you need, so you can sit there and just look at this bolt needs to go in that hole and this part goes there, instead of trying to catch it on video and having to back it up and then throw some commercials in there, and it gets really aggravating. Thank goodness I had Wi-Fi in the shop, but nonetheless, that was not great. Had they just put together a basic diagram of how this thing goes together with some very basic written instructions, this would go from like a 4-star review to a 5-star review. That assembly process was more aggravating than it needed to be, because it was only on video. Again, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but give it a try sometime and you'll see what I'm talking about. But we got it together, and frankly, once we got it together and got it running, that's where my complaints really end. This thing has done really well for me. So what do I like about this thing? What I really like, and so they give you 2 options for engines, actually 3, I think, on the 22-ton. You can buy a Honda GX 270, which I'm not sure the horsepower on that engine, and they have two different other engines, and I think basically they're Predator engines a la Harbor Freight, but they don't call them that. One smaller, one the same size as the Honda, and a bigger one. I almost went with the bigger one, but I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to stick with the Honda, and I'm really glad I did. This thing cranks so easy and just runs so smooth, and yeah, man, it's a Honda engine. What more can you want? And it just really does great. The other thing, and even though I was specifically looking for a pass-through splitter, I was really kind of lukewarm about the log lift. Well, let me tell you, I was wrong about that. That log lift has been fantastic. Now, when I'm splitting smaller stuff, I'm just walking over to the wood pile, grabbing as many chunks of the smaller stuff I can, and loading it onto the log lift manually with the log lift up. And then I just got this big work table, and I can just pull them to me and split them, and it's no big deal. But when I get to the bigger rounds, like this right here, you definitely want the log lift. So I'm using my pickaroon or hookaroon, rolling or flipping them over there, getting them on the log lift, and then picking up one at a time and doing that. And I had 3 very large, I'm talking about chunky boy logs, that came in my loads of wood this year. And I don't know if I'd have gotten things done without that log lift. So the log lift was fantastic. I really like it. It's supposed to be a 300-pound limit on this thing. Frankly, I don't know how much I've loaded on it, just static and letting it sit, but it's probably more than 300 pounds. And some of the rounds I picked up, again, I don't have a scale, I didn't weigh them, but they were freaking heavy. So yay for the log lift. That's been a very surprisingly good feature on this splitter. So I like the log lift, I like the engine, the controls work fine. Got them mounted at 45. That's one of the things about this splitter that was kind of neat. So you can mount the controls on this thing where they face this way, so the levers are running that way, or 90 degrees where they're running this way, or you can set them at 45 like I have them set. That was kind of a recommendation off the video, and I did it, and it seems to work fine. So that's been good. And then I like the little tray. I don't really use it so much because generally what's happening is every time I'm pushing the log through and getting it split, once I get the final split side of it, I'm picking up off this tray and chunking it in the wagon, getting ready to go to the next log. So I thought that I would be able just to keep feeding off the tray and they would just dump in the wagon, but yeah, that didn't really work out. But that's okay. That's not a fault of the splitter. It's just the way things are, and it's perfectly fine. So yeah, man. Oh yeah, it's been pretty good. So all season long, again, it's 2.5, whatever, 3 cords of wood. Mostly, I don't know, 10-inch wood, 12-inch, something like that. But a lot of twisty grain stuff, a lot of ash, which is just stringy and nasty to split. Some hickory in there. This thing split everything. Ironically, it was my last piece here that I cut out, and you can see how knotty and crotchy this stuff is. This is the one thing it wouldn't split. It pushed into the wedge about 1/2 inch, and that was all she wrote right there. Frankly, I don't know if a 27 or even a 33 ton would get it done. I guess it would, but at that point you're not even splitting, you're just shearing it in half. So I got the saw out and got it noodled up down to about right here, so about 2/3 of the way down. So we'll see how that works here in a minute. See if we can get this last piece split up. And then this is just some leftover stuff, and again, some crotchy kind of real twisty grain stuff that it wouldn't split, that I either got noodled up or cut down a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, man, usually I'm Captain Overkill on this kind of stuff, but the price goes up dramatically as you're going up in size, and I'm not sure in my case that it was would have been worth the money to do that. There's a fly on the GoPro that's about to crawl over the lens. So I've been pretty happy with the 22 ton. Yeah. Some things that I'm just kind of like meh about is these pins. So the lift table is held on by this pin, 2 of these pins on each one on each side, and it's got these little pins that are supposed to push through there like that. You've seen that before. The problem is when you get the big pin in, this hole is up underneath the log lift, up inside the thing, and you can't really get to it. And the fiddle factor on that seems kind of out of proportion to the benefit it gives you. I've just been, there they go. I've just been running just this pin and just keep whacking it back in there when it vibrates out, and it does every now and then, but not too bad. You got 2 more of these same pins down here. These don't tend to vibrate out near as much, so that's okay. So the pins aren't that fantastic. The 4-way, man, I was really stoked, and I think I mentioned it on another video about this 4-way wedge. I really thought this was going to be a time saver. Really hadn't been that great. I can pan over here and show you all this waste wood. My whole wagon, I'll say hello to Henry over there. Whole wagon full of waste wood, and a lot of that's just shredded up stuff. Now some of that's man glitter off the chainsaw, but just a lot of waste wood, and most of that was generated from this 4-way wedge. It just kind of, again, it tends to shear it instead of splitting wood, except when it's really straight grain stuff. Sometimes it worked great, but I found myself very frequently not using this at all. And it's like the longer I ran it, the less I used the 4-way wedge. In fact, we're not going to use it right now. My last complaint, and it's not that much of a complaint because I get it. I'm kind of not like everybody else. I'm a little bit taller than the average person, but this thing could have stood to be about another, I don't know, 4 inches higher, because I found myself having to bend over a little bit on everything to kind of manage all the wood. And when I stay out here very long, I start getting lower back pain, to the extent that I've actually built some little wooden blocks for it to set up on. That worked just okay. And next year I'm going to get me a scissor jack and jack the thing up and put some big blocks underneath it and have a little bit better setup. So that was a lesson learned there. But again, I know everybody's not as tall as me, and it seems counterintuitive to want it taller, but for me it would have been less bending over. All right, so I think that's enough yakking. Let's see if it'll take care of these last couple of pieces. I got this thing, I guess you'll be able to see. Got this thing noodled crossways on here. So I noodled it up with the saw and then tried to put the Fisker's maul on it and try to bust it. It would not bust. So this is a piece that, absent this log splitter, would not be getting split this year. It'd have to be noodled up in pieces, and that'd be fine. But we're going to see if, now that we got it started, see if the splitter will go ahead and finish it off. And again, first time I put it on here, I was getting about a 1/2 inch penetration out of the out of the wedge on this thing. All right, well, we'll see if this Honda engine makes a liar out of me and see if it'll crank on the first pull. Let's hope. Okay, I guess we'll choke it. show you guys. So it was splitting up to here, but then it hit a knot right there and it really powered down. I didn't know if it was gonna make it through that knot, but it just sheared right through that thing. Again, that ain't split, that is sheared in half. So again, man, not too bad for a 22-ton splitter. The baby of the bunch. you go, guys. That is the Rugged Made 22-ton log splitter. Rugged Made, M-A-D-E. So yeah, if you can make it through the purchase process and the assembly process, I think you'll be well pleased with one of these splitters. I would say don't be daunted or intimidated by either the purchase process or the assembly process. If you've got basic mechanical skills and Wi-Fi in your shop, you'll be able to do this. Just take your time, don't get in a hurry on the assembly, and you'll figure it out. I didn't try any kind of customer support, but I think if you call them, they'll hook you up and help you over any rough spots. But really, the video was sufficient, if not fantastic. So there you go. If you have any questions, post them down in the comments below and I'll try to answer those. Again, I've got one season on this thing, but I don't have any reason to think that this thing's not going to serve me well as long as I'm kicking. Hopefully either my kids will get this thing if they need it, or it'll be passed down to somebody else, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to use this thing until I kick. So yeah, the log lift, this is like the old man rig. With that, I will say the Honda engine has hookups for electric start. All I got to do is get a battery and hook up the cables, but the thing cranks so easy at this point. I'm not messing with that at this point. Maybe somewhere down the road I'll do that. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm going to finish up this very last little bit of wood and put the finishing touches on this year's worth of splitting, and looking forward to next year's splitting. I'm going to try to run all the rest of the gas out of this thing. I was hoping I wasn't going to run out of the gas just a minute ago. But that's it. So yeah, man, if you're still with me and you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Helps out the channel. And again, if you got any questions or comments, throw them in the comments. Yeah, throw them in the comments below, and I'll check those out, and again, try to answer anything if anybody's got any questions. Alrighty, it's been a good one. We'll see you guys next time.